proc it now. Gonna proc it now. Right, Jackson Aurelia. Jackson Aurelia. Gonna proc it now. Gonna proc it now. Proc it, Jackson Aurelia. T-Force.
Welcome to the rework of the T-Force. Now we going hard cause we bumping at the beat source. It's a 3-course dinner of dudes bringing the news and stats, interviews and cash from the pro scene. So fresh and so clean, like you're leaning with Nami in the bot lane. Keep it hot like brand, practicing his dot game. Give it to you easy like your Resi in the bot game. Imagine Draven at prime time. Now ulti like LeBlanc can copy that 4 times, but manlier. Knock it up like now fight planning a family-er. You gotta be tuned in like Sona on the ad wall. Get on the chat call. Can a podcast really be all that? Of course. How do 4 guys make a Triforce?
Hey guys, you are watching the Trinity Force podcast, or listening to if you have the headphones on.
Probably listening.
Probably.
Yeah, most likely listening.
The majority of our listeners.
Both.
Definitely listening. Maybe watching is really.
I hope
There
you're
you go.
watching. I hope you are tuned in on Mondays and Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time to watch us talk about League of Legends. You can see our faces. You can see what we look like. I am not a fat man. I am skinny as skinny can be. Sorry for all you people out there who were like, wow, Adam's not fat.
It's funny you say that because everybody thinks I'm fat too. I don't understand.
Well, it might be the nerd persona.
The only thing I've seen is, wow, Dom does not look like what I thought he would.
Well, we all think you look like a Jewish guy. Let's be honest here.
Yeah,
I really expect like the hook nose and
Yeah,
everything.
I'm sure.
Well,
That sounds right. I mean, we're not that far off either.
And there's that Adolf pwn we were talking about last week.
all the products out of my hair now. If you guys are watching live, you'll notice that the borders are off, and I need to fix those, but I want to do the intro before it starts. DeClaude's camera isn't working for this week, so
He broke it.
Fucked it up.
so you guys can see me, which is all that's going to matter, because right now we need to roll right into sponsorships, because we have a brand new sponsor for this week, and I'm really excited, and I've been using this product for over a week now. It's Pocket Aces Backpacks. So what you guys can get is called the Pocket Aces Bundle, and I actually have it right here, so you need to watch this live. If you're listening to MP3, you need to go to YouTube and look at this. So it's an awesome backpack, right? You're like, well, what's so cool about a backpack?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
I know. What
Like, if you would have waited, I would have said it.
Oh yeah. Oh, well, sorry, I ruined it. Maybe next time. I'm gonna move my microphone, so it'll be a little
Not
off.
next time it'll be canned. This time I was like, wow, what? So that's a backpack.
Yeah. So what's
Sell
so
it
cool
to me,
about
Adam.
a backpack? You know what's cool about this backpack? All the accessories it comes with. So I don't know about you guys, but when I was in college, I would bring my laptop with me, and there's only like one place in the entire room that you can plug your charger into, like a cell phone or whatever it is, and everybody scrambles to get there early to get it, right? Well, think about it this way. You could be the savior, or you could actually get a girlfriend by doing this. Because what's great about this backpack is, ready, watch, I'm going to show you why.
Or boyfriend.
Here, it actually has a little power cord that plugs into... Oh, wait for it. Look at that. Like a surge protector or a power strip. And now you have 4 slots. So now that girl that you would want him to talk to for weeks, you'd be like, hey, baby, give me your phone. I'll plug it in my backpack over here. You know,
Or boy.
Or boy.
Or boy.
Or boy.
But that's not all it has, actually. So I'm going to continue on here, like the salesman that I am, which is great about this backpack. It doesn't only have that, but as you open it up where you can stick like your laptop and stuff in, it comes with a phone charger. You tell them what you want when you get it. You get an Apple, you can get a Android, whatever it was. I have an Android phone charger. Not to mention there's more. There's like 7 or 8 compartments in here. Comes with an on-the-go cell phone charger, so if there is no place in the classroom to plug in, boom, you have your on-the-go cell phone charger. Comes with an umbrella. Oh, wait. Comes with an umbrella, and it comes with an American flag water bottle where you can.
Oh yeah.
Now you're
America.
drinking while in class.
Make sure you put water in there.
Yours is filled with beer, right?
Mine's filled with vodka tonic.
I was about to say.
All right, fair enough.
But that's not it. Okay, so it's got all those
What?
compartments.
Wait,
it also has
there's
a great
more.
compartment. Wait, there's more. There's actually this thing's really cool because on the bottom it has a compartment that you can put your shoes in. So like if you go to the gym beforehand, because there's so much room in here, you could actually put your gym clothes in it and your backpack. So now you have you put your gym shoes or whatever in the bottom of the backpack, and then you just strap it on your back, walk to school, and you're the coolest kid in class. Because it is the most versatile backpack because you are ever going to find.
Isn't there a laptop bag in the back?
Did you ever think you were going to say that phrase in your life?
Versatile backpack?
No, coolest kid in
You
class.
missed. You missed 2 pockets.
Because it
by
was
the way.
certainly never about you.
Oh, no, there's
It was
plenty
never
of
said
pockets.
about you.
No, never. Not your.
Yeah, there's the
Oh,
laptop
shut up.
pocket,
Yeah, there's the laptop pocket in the
and it's
back.
padded, right? It
Yes.
looks like pads.
Yes, sir.
Good.
There's pads. No, like I said, like this backpack's really cool. You guys heard us talk about Gatherers Gourmet Granola. I would never try to have you guys go and get something or have anybody sponsor the podcast that I didn't think was an awesome product. So Michael, who has been taking care of us, I made him. I asked him to send me a backpack. I said, send me one. I will use it, and I will give it a test. And I've been using this for a week. I actually took everything out of it just so I could pick it up. And it's durable, fantastic. Anyway,
Nice.
bit.ly/T-Force bag. These bags are normally $200. You guys can go and get your bag right now for $119 with the code BACK, the number 2, school, back to school at checkout. Pocket Aces bundle. There you go, guys. Go check out these awesome backpacks. Let us know what you think about it if you decide to buy one. Back to school is coming up, so it's perfect.
And it comes with that little portable charger?
Comes with the portable charger, comes with the surge protector, comes with the umbrella and American flag water bottle.
Oh, cool. All right.
That's awesome.
Boom.
That's awesome.
So did I sell it? Do you guys want to go buy one?
More backpack than you'll know what to do with.
So when are we getting our
if I was in college, I would be intrigued. I would want to learn more.
If I hadn't graduated already, I'd jump all over.
How many bags of granola can it hold? That's a really good question. And you know what? If you tune in Wednesday, you'll find out how many bags of granola this could hold.
Will they now?
They will. So let's go ahead and move on forward here. We have 52 minutes left of podcast, and we want to do only League of Legends. Guys, before I do that, don't forget to go check out our brother and sister podcast, the Oz LOL, and the T-Force LCS Rundown. Rundown has 5 people, and they've hit their stride now. Daniel, Mott, Tom, Mitch, and Greg are all taking care of that now.
Ah, you remembered your siblings' names. How?
I don't remember the guys. So well. Lee and Clerical Error is all I remember. I don't remember. I can't remember the third guy's name. But yeah, go check those out.
No, nobody can.
All right, let's talk League of Legends. See, this we already said this episode is going to be only listener questions, and as soon as patch 4.13 hits, we will be all over that like flies on shit. So
Nice.
Hey, yeah, there we go. Turn
A
up the
listener
vulgarity here.
question episode.
Yeah.
Well, first and foremost, we're going to start with Punchinello's question. In
Punch?
terms of snack foods, is the pretzel plus chocolate combination the greatest combination ever invented? Please discuss how it affects Rengar's ridiculous power level.
We saved this one for you, Chira. You are you are the expert on snack
right.
food.
It's the salty mixed with the sweet. You know, it just adds that extra thing. You might as well be running around with an extra ferocity point as Rengar if you're smashing chocolate-covered pretzels in your mouth while pressing buttons on a kitty. You know, that it's really sad.
You really, you fell apart there.
Well, no, I'm sitting there thinking, I used to take those pretzels and like a little piece of caramel and shove it all together, and that was like my favorite snack thing forever. But I would eat bags of chocolate and pretzels doing that. So I've like cut so much sugar out of my diet. It just makes me sad thinking about all the stupid snacking that I could be doing right now. So instead, I'm eating watermelon.
I am not a big fan of the chocolate pretzel combination.
You heathen.
Okay.
I like them separately.
Then, so I'm assuming Rengar likes pretzels and chocolate. Let's talk about Rengar right now, why he's being picked in the LCS and what's going on with him, because I think that's the overlying point of this question.
He's a murder machine as long as you're, not trying to play him into Nidalee.
As long as you're as long as you're not a dumbass and build him out of the jungle by building him a tank. Like I think that's what my biggest pet peeve right now is people playing him.
What is
with
your
a tank.
biggest pet peeve right now?
God, it's the people using him like a pet. They make him this like nice little buff machine, and then he jumps in there and he doesn't do anything. And you need to build him. You have to finish that Feral Flare. You have to build damage on him. Oh, I want to say it was Samsung Blue is the only team that's done it right so far and has done Ghost Blade, Wriggle's Lantern, or whatever the hell, Feral Flare.
You know what's
Here's the
funny
thing
is
with-
Rengar. This is a complete 180 from what it used to be before his supposed rework. It was you would build him tankier out of the top lane instead of damage because there was no way he could survive an all-in at that point.
Right.
So
that's
everything has
kinda
shifted, so you have to adapt.
That's kind of what happens with a lot of reworks. People get very used to the way you played a champion or the certain way a champion was being played, and then a rework happens. I mean, we saw it with Gragas. How long did it take people to actually figure out, that you have to play him differently now? But, like, I think that's what's going on with Rengar now. I mean, his rework is pretty old, but it's not like he had a high adoption rate right after that. We were we were advocates for him, but most of the community kind of hated on him. And so now the people picking him up are kind of defaulting to that tank Rengar mindset, and that's not how you do it anymore.
No.
Well,
Especially
Not anymore.
I think
Yep.
people are scared to build him damage because they feel you need that tank out of the jungle. It might work really well with an Orianna. Like, we've seen Orianna Rengar. It's a fantastic combination to run together.
CLG loves that comp.
Just to deliver the ball. Yep.
Yeah, the ball delivery service is great. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't mind tank Rengar then, Feral Flare into maybe some kind of defensive stat to get you faster, but I like the U moves because of how much faster you run and how much more quickly you can get into a team. I just don't feel like you're ever doing your job if you're jumping on the AD carry, unless your job is to make sure that AD carry doesn't do anything, and then your teammates blow up the front line. Like, if your job is to isolate the AD carry, not necessarily blow him up, then tank Rengar, I think, works really well. But you're losing a lot of his damage and mid-game damage and mobility by not building those extra items.
I mean,
Right,
as
and-
far as durability goes, sorry to cut you off, DeClaude.
That's
I mean,
okay. Go on.
he's getting a lot of free defense stats just from W. It's
Right.
not like it's not like he needs the defense stats to absolutely survive. I mean, yeah, Fed champions are still going to cut through him, but he, especially during the mid game when not everybody's at full power, he is going to jump in with some defense to his name. Never mind the heal, if you want to go that route instead of the snare or whatever else.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was pretty much going to touch on that. He gets the free
Oh,
defensive stats that help. It's better on the W, especially if you're jumping into a group of many champions, because it's better per champion that it hits. Plus, if you look at the cinematic, you see Rengar jump on the AD carry, Draven there, and he rips him to shreds.
right.
does
He kills
murder.
Draven, takes him out of the equation, and then, imagine if he had boxing gloves on, he jumped and just started bopping him in the face. And then he
Draven
got-
had a pretty lackluster appearance in that
Cinematic.
cinematic. Yeah, I mean, like Darius was a badass.
Yeah.
Draven's axe didn't even bounce off the tree. It stuck in
Yeah,
it.
like Draven
Oh,
was
good catch.
pretty. I wouldn't be playing Draven after that cinematic if I was thinking about it.
Although the expression he gave to Leona when she was down, where he's like, "You're fucked."
What are you gonna do?
Graves, meanwhile, he was a badass in that
Yeah,
thing.
it was.
Well,
We're getting sidetracked, I know, but
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Anyway,
Okay, the thing that I like the most about Rengar is if you have a Rengar and you're doing okay and you have like the Taimat, the Yomus, whatever, and you can dump just a lot of instant damage into somebody, you get to a point where it forces the enemy's mid laner or AD carry to never wander around alone because you might be there, and if you're there, they're going to explode.
my brother hates Rengar. Like, that is his least favorite champion in the game because it doesn't matter what you're doing. When you, like, if you're a marksman, Rengar just shows up and you die. It doesn't matter what happened. Like, you're gonna die if Rengar finds you. And even, like, a lot of times if the support is with you or you have a group of people, Rengar will still just show up and murder you, and you had no say in the matter. And yeah, he makes the Rengar players make the enemy team ward in different ways, because throwing a ward in a brush doesn't help you nearly as much as it does if you push it out further. But then your vision control is different. You have to be. I mean, it's kind of like the Evelyn syndrome in that regard. You have to start using your wards in different ways just to try and account for her.
Well,
And
even say the enemy team against a Rengar starts like aggressively trying to engage or something like that, and Rengar's sitting off on the wings, hits R and goes to go in. As soon as that little exclamation point shows up, it's like there's a murder kitty around. It immediately kind of changes everybody's perception of, oh shit, maybe we shouldn't go aggressive because if anybody's caught out, they might instantly explode. Where's he going to jump on from any direction? I like him in that regard, that he's so much like Evelyn that it forces you to kind of, it makes you double think anything you're about to do, because it might completely turn an entire fight around if Rengar just shows up, obliterates your AD carry as soon as you engage, and next thing you know, your team's tank line has an AD carry that it's protecting, and they can just mow down the rest of the team. I mean, at the end of the day, if Rengar jumps in and kills the AD carry and dies, that's fine. Your team still has an AD carry. So,
yeah, and sweeping lens is the answer to most things, but you can't sweep Rengar before he jumps on you.
I looked at Adam's face right when Shira said at the end of the day, and he just went from like tuning in to just sour to increasingly unhappy.
Well, I'm increasingly happy. He's over here still eating his goddamn watermelon.
You can't hear a damn thing. Shut
I
up.
can hear the entire smacking.
Nothing. You hear nothing.
You know what's funny? Chira came back from his vacation, and the first thing he talks about is how much food he ate.
I ate at this barbecue restaurant. Side note, that it was all you can eat ribs, and I ate 8 plates of ribs.
Holy crap. 8?
Wow.
I ate 3 plates of ribs after the rest of the people I was with were done eating, and the server didn't know what to do because I
Well,
kept
you know what I know what to do is move on from this conversation.
Just wait till your metabolism slows down, buddy.
Dakota writes in, building a tank is reacting to what the other team is buying. Building a damage dealer is buying what enhances your damage to the best of your abilities. Yes or no? That is a question. That's a question. I'm going to say no.
Yeah, for the first part.
Yeah,
I would
definitely.
I would still say even no, because you don't necessarily build tank because you're not reacting to the other team by building tank.
No. Okay, I think he's saying building a tank. So when he says that, I think like Rammus or a Mumu, that type of champion. And in that regard, you're not going to prioritize armor if the opponent team has a shit ton of magic damage.
I think it needs to be broken down to way easier than that, because you're not necessarily building a tank out of the jungle. Like Nautilus last night, here's the thing. Nautilus last night, for example, I was 6-0 on him, so I built a stinger.
Cool.
And it worked for a while until other lanes were losing.
This is just saying building a tank.
Hold on, let me continue with my point. I do believe, I think breaking it down to be more simple is building defensive stats is to react to what the enemy team, if the enemy team is building offense, you need to live longer to do whatever your job is in a team fight. So now you are building defensive stats to live longer to bring more utility to a team. So that's why you're building defensive stats. It's not building tank, it's building defensively for a reason. Just like you're building offensively because you have better position, better mobility, better front line, whatever it may be, so you don't need to build any defensive items to stay alive. It's all about staying alive, what is going to allow you to do that in a team fight.
So what you're saying is everybody should just build to react to what the other team is buying, regardless of tank or what your role is.
I'm not gonna say that 100% definitively because
I would say not to say that 100% definitively, because there are many times that you can build something that forces the enemy team to react to what you're building.
I think with this question, building a tank is reacting to what the other team is buying. Those are the exact words. And if you're building a tank, for example, let's get off the idea of whether or not you should build a tank, which is kind of what you're going at, right, Adam?
Yeah.
This is just saying if you're building tank, you're reacting to what the other team is buying, and that is correct. But if it's too diverse, then when in doubt, build health, kind of thing.
I actually disagree with that a little bit. I think building a tank is reacting to the other team's comp. If that champion, so like they have 4 magic damage dealers and their only physical damage is a bruiser in the top lane, just for example's sake, the only physical damage would be the marksman and everything. You're gonna need armor, but you need to emphasize magic resist way more heavily, magic resist and health way more in the early game, because that's what's going to keep you alive. As the game goes on, you need to adapt your build to whatever the biggest threat is, but that's an issue of the team comp and not necessarily what the opponent is building.
Well, yeah, I'd assume that was assumed. If they're an AP champion, they will be buying AP items. So
yeah, and yeah,
so you're building MR in that case. But yeah, I'd agree that makes sense. It's logical. You're trying to tank, then you want to react. And I hear what Dom's saying. Like, for example, if they have a traditional AP champion who's building hybrid for every reason, you still want to build more magic resist than armor if you're going to counter that particular champion.
Which makes Kale an interesting case there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, like I said, when in doubt, build health, especially if you're out of the jungle. All right, let's go. Can we move on to the second part?
Well, yeah. I no reason to dwell. Yeah.
All right, building a damage dealer is buying what enhances your damage to the best of your abilities. For example, like if you have a high AD scaling, you want to build 80 items, etc. That's what I'm assuming it means.
Offensive items. I'm just trying to think. With League of Legends, there's too much about League of Legends to break it down. I think it's too hard to break it down into as simple as build damage because that's what you do, build tank because that's what you do. I think there's too much in this game, and too much that a lot of people don't take into account, such as utility. You are building a champion. You're building a support because support has a lot of utility. Mid laners are now becoming utility mid laners because they help the very high scaling damage dealers do damage by either protecting them or providing them with buffs. And so Orianna, for example, might not build damage even though her abilities are scaling off of damage. She might build items that allow her to use her utility more often. Cooldown reduction, mana regen.
Right, which kind of the way this is this question is actually worded to encompass all that. What enhances your damage to the best of your abilities. I'm assuming, let's say marksman role. Let's look at different marksmen and why they build differently. Why would you build Corki different than you would build, say, Graves?
I mean, the way I read this question isn't really, I mean, because only the yes or no is the question. But the way I read this is it's intended to be advice, like basic advice you can give to somebody who's starting out in the game. And this, presumably this listener's kind of in that position where he or she has friends that are getting started and everything and trying to help them along. Like, this is advice. And, like, it's reasonable advice there. It's pretty accurate in my estimation. It gets more complex in this game, just like everything does. But when you're starting out and you like look in the shop and you don't know what the fuck you're doing and everything, if you can grasp what your champion is supposed to do, advice like this is actually going to help you out quite a bit.
That helps me a lot.
You need to know whether or not you're a tank or whether you're a tank or a damage dealer. That's the big deal there.
I agree. That helped me a lot. When I played Smite with Chira, it came down to what do I do? Okay, I'm a tank, I engage, therefore I just need to build defense and stay alive. And
defense and CDR and whatever else.
Yeah.
Yep.
Usually if you're to expand on this question a little bit, use the basic point like Dom said. If you're a tank, build defensive stats. If you're an offensive or you're AD carry or mid, build offensive stats. I don't know how else to put it. Just don't ever forget that CDR is a very valuable stat to have, and if you can get best of both worlds, you can get health and CDR, Kindle Gem. That might be a good item for you to pick up at some point because that's going to build into something that can help you later on down the line. So you need to continue to think about that. You know,
I mean,
I'm a big proponent of that.
To a degree, there aren't really items that are counters to other items.
No, not really.
You know, I mean, there are items that are designed to help you deal with what other champions do, but it's not like you don't buy Thorn Mail to counter Lifesteal. It doesn't really work that way.
Yeah, there's no Dispel, so you can't take off Ardent Censor's ability off everybody.
Yeah, you know, you're buying Thorn Mail because there's a ton of magic, a ton of auto attack damage coming at you, and that's going to actually punish the opponents for it.
Yep, so pretty much I think you're on the right track, Dakota, when telling your friends what to do. And I think Adam touched on it best with his Smite experience, you know, because it's a new game. It was a new game to him. He's just like, well, I'm a tanky guy. Let me build defensive, etc. So
if you're coming over here from playing a MOBA, or excuse me, an MMO, any of the hundreds that are out there, just kind of think about. Well, I mean, people are playing like WildStar now. That's like the big one. Just you can take everything that you've learned in League and take it to other games, because stats, are same across the board. So when you think I have a tank, well, what does a tank do in League? It doesn't necessarily stand in front of a mob and tank it, but it does absorb damage. So what do I need to build? Like, just think about it. If you're having a hard time understanding how to build, try to use your past experience in other games to help you to get better at League. So
wraps up. I think that wraps that one up.
Right. Me too. All right. Gorath is up, and then Dr. Offset is on deck. Gorath writes in, when is the best time to perform a tower dive as a jungler? Are there certain junglers that are more optimized for diving? How do I perform a dive effectively? Is it a bad idea to perform dives in solo queue because of the lack of communication? He wants to know everything about tower diving. Well, Gorath...
JJ!
Do we have Ranhurt in our chat?
Yeah, I was going to say, well, we're on this podcast, so he cannot tell you about the tower dive. Not that
well,
he
as
would be
a
the person
jungler.
to do it.
Okay, so tower dives. Basically, You want to tower dive when the outcome of your tower dive is going to be much, much greater than the outcome of your tower dive going wrong. So, for example, if there are two people that are really low in the bot lane and you're playing somebody like Elise, who, this answers another part of your question, who's really good at tower diving, can run in, dump damage into somebody, the rest of your team follows up and engages, you kill somebody, the turret gets a couple shots on you so you can soak damage, they kill the other person, and then you rappel up into the air and you're not taking any more damage. The tower drops aggro and you get away.
But now the tower is hitting somebody else on your team.
Exactly.
Right. So
go for
I
it.
guess I would say tower dive if your lane as a jungler, if your lane ally is on board. Communication is key because they have to know that when you're soaking tower hits, they should go ham damage wise and do as much as they can to get that kill. Otherwise, you're soaking the tower hits and they're not helping you out because they're scared because there's a big scary turret right there. You're going to die, or it's going to be a waste of time. So,
or even on the other side of that, say you're diving for somebody like Renekton, who after 6 gets a huge health boost and isn't going to just immediately get crushed by the turret.
Plus
They need to
CC.
know exactly. Hey, go in there, pop your ult, so you're gonna live. We'll kill him, and then we'll just walk away because you're not dying to 4 turret shots.
Tower dives are hard to do effectively at any level. Even we've seen in the LCS where people have died 2v1 to tower dives because the shields, flashes, polymorphs, whatever it may be, were up.
And frankly, it's difficult to manage turret aggro.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, like there are some times where you just inexplicably get the turret aggro because the algorithm said that you were the higher priority there for whatever reason, and that can totally throw off a tower dive. You know,
Well,
if the marksman is the one that starts taking all the turret shots and everything, like that's a lot of your damage that is going to be gone either because the marksman dies or because he or she has to bail.
Well, it can also be where, all right, we're going to tower dive as Leona / marksman, and the marksman bullet hits before Leona registers. Like the E doesn't necessarily register as quickly as a auto attack does. So now the AD carry, like you said, is taking the auto attack, yada yada. And she's either dead or out of the fight.
And you have a support hitting whoever the target is like a wet noodle.
Yeah.
Just like, hey guys.
The worst thing in my experience is when you are expecting your team to tower dive, and then like the marksman decides to back off and go away, so it's just like the jungler and the support going at it. Or you try to get your team in position to dive, and so you start tanking, like you make sure you get the turret aggro, and then the dive doesn't happen, so all you've done is eaten a bunch of turret shots, and so you have to go back because there was that miscommunication. And that really just goes to the point that it's hard to do it in solo queue.
yeah,
It's hard to do it on a team, but it's really hard to do it in solo.
I'm
is.
slowly moving under the impression that you should almost never tower dive unless you know like the perfect scenario, they don't have flash or whatever is up, because
Their jungler's not around.
yeah, it's usually like I don't think I've tower dove as much as I used to. I would say last year at this time I probably tower dove all the time because it was a lot of fun and I wanted to get the kill and I was really bloodthirsty. But now I'm like, all right, I'll just make the person go back and they'll lose a ton of CS and then I don't have to go back, so I'm getting all that CS and experience that they're not getting. And I always forget whenever I say CS, like experience plays a huge part into this as well. Like you just gain 2
Free
waves
XP.
more of experience than the person did.
You bring up a really good point where just because you can tower dive somebody and kill them, if you're going to be forced to back afterwards, that small amount of golden experience might not be worth getting the next 2 or 3 waves. So there are a lot of times that tower diving is very well not the smartest thing to do, and that, you know, if you have like a long range harass ability, say you're playing Nidalee and you just scared the shit out of somebody in lane, you're both kind of low but you have the sustain to get yourself back up, and they're kind of like pretending they're gonna try and go back, and you have the lane frozen right in the middle. If you know they're trying to go back, you can sit on the other side of the lane and just chuck spears at them to force them to waste time before
Zone
they can
them
go
out,
back. They're zoned out, you're getting a ton of free XP and CS, and you're keeping them from doing anything.
Now-
they can't effectively CS, they can't effectively get any experience, and then after you've put them back 10, 15 seconds or whatever, they go back midway through their lane and back there. You know, That's a huge difference in leveling and gold by the time they actually get
Still
back
come
to
out
lane.
on top.
Yep.
Yeah, and that being said, an ideal time to tower dive, if you're contemplating it, is when you have a significant amount of friendly minions pushing their turret. Because if you can get a significant amount of minions pushing up the turret, you wipe. Let's say you're pushing hard, you're bullying the lane. You wipe them out real quick. You go in for the dive. If you do manage to secure the kill on them, they're not going to get any experience from those waves crashing into that turret. By the time they res and get back to lane, it'll be normalized and it'll be coming back out. So that's when it is most useful. Plus, when you have minions that are tanking, you can time it. You can even try to zone them away from their turret, and if they don't listen, then punish them. So you also asked if there were any champions that were better at tower diving. And yes, obviously there are. There are champions that can soak damage.
Pantheon,
for example.
Elise, Lee Sin.
Pantheon, especially since you can use W on minions now. So you can soak the hit and then W minion to soak another turret hit if the enemy is out of range for you, for example. So, but yeah. Elise,
I mean,
you
Lee
shake the
Sin does
aggro.
it well.
Lee Sin does it well, yep.
That fucking
So,
asshole.
anyone who could shake aggro real quick or just wipe it instantly.
Shake
Or
aggro
has-
or has a ton of CC that well, it's really a person that has high armor. You have high armor, you can block damage or you can drop.
Hence
the
Leona
turret.
with Eclipse, yep.
I mean, yeah, as far as supports go, just because I think in a lot of cases they do play into dives, it's all the obvious candidate. I mean, anyone can dive if you can just absorb turret hits for the damage dealers. You're doing a big job there. But yeah, otherwise, it's all the obvious candidates: Alistar, Leona, Braum, those types of Taric. It's the obvious candidates in that regard.
Yeah.
Soraka's nice for dives just because she can sort of give somebody that second wind, but
Because she's secret tanky when she, or makes somebody secret tanky when she heals them.
yeah. I mean, she's great
the
for
armor.
dives in that regard, just because prop somebody back up and then the next turret hit or two they take is not going to be as bad.
So run through a quick mental checklist. Do you have enough minions pushing the turret? Yes. Okay, maybe we can turret dive. 2, do they have summoners available that can save their ass or bait you to your death? A heal, a flash, whatever the case may be. No, they don't. Check. Okay, you can probably dive and get away with it.
There you go.
End of story.
I mean, and I just want to, backing up to the point Cheer made, I think a lot of people don't appreciate how important it is to not die. There are a lot of people who think, oh, you know what, I dove and I
Yeah.
killed them and then I died while I was
Good
at
point.
it. No big deal. I come out ahead. And that's you probably did, unless you got executed, you probably didn't come out ahead. It's pretty much even. Yeah, there's a little bit of an experience disparity, but not likely a meaningful one at that point.
Especially if you're a jungler and you have buffs and you lose them.
Yeah, especially if
Because
you're a
you just
jungler and
died.
you have buffs.
Oh God, yeah. Please feed me the buffs. Dive me, feed me the buffs, and let me live.
Or just wipe the buffs. Even if you do get the kill and you die too, you lost buffs. So
I think,
not worth.
to a degree, I think people just get caught up in the aggressive playstyle mindset and everything because they see professional players, competitive level stuff, aggression happens all the time and everything. And what people are failing to take into account is that it's calculated aggression. They know what they're doing and why they're doing it, and they have calculated everything to the point where they're basically playing off book. And anything that happens is because there's no way they could have accounted for it.
I think we pretty much hit that one good.
All right,
Well.
next question. We'll move on. Let's go for it. Dr. Offset writes in, I am a relatively new player, and after playing mostly support, I decided to pick up jungling. I am to the point where I can pull a gank from time to time to level 6, but when mid and late game come around, what should I be doing? Well, all right, here's how I'm going to start with this. We're talking jungling. What is our assumption for this point? Is there 8? What tower is down? Have we taken dragons? What time does mid game start? What are we all in agreement here?
I
When
mean,
the turret goes down, I'd assume.
for the most part, mid-game starts when the first turret goes down and everything, because all of a sudden somebody gets to roam in that point. I think, for the purposes of this conversation, why don't we just say all of the outer turrets on both teams are gone, so that you no longer have that objective to worry about?
So I would say that you are trying to put yourself in the most advantageous position for your team, knowing what your next objective is going to be. You're looking at Dragon Timer. Dragon spawns in a minute and a half. I need to be in the bottom half of the map. I need to be farming my jungle in the bottom half. I need to be warding up. Okay, Dragon spawns in 6 minutes. I have time to go secure my buffs if they're up now. I have time to go farm the jungle a little more. I have time to walk down and, depending on what side has the turrets down, You're trying to figure out the best place for you to be based on what time your buffs are spawning and what time the minions, the big monsters, are spawning.
And it's super easy now with the timers.
Oh yeah.
It is.
Just hit tab and know where you need to be.
Yes, you're one of your number one priorities. If you have all three of their turrets down, you're obviously very far ahead, hopefully, because your turrets haven't fallen. So you are able to kind of relax a little more, take your jungle, get people do the Aram type of thing. Let's roll up the mid lane, or let's roll down bottom lane, however you want to do it. But with all three your turrets are down, you can't take your time to walk out into your jungle. You have to buy wards to start warding up and playing defensively. The mindset has to go from neutral when you're in the beginning of the game. I would say it's neutral. You're not offensive, you're not defensive per se. You're just playing the game and then making your decisions, snap decisions based on there. But at this point, you have to play defensively and figure out when the best time that you can engage, if that's the type of jungler you are, or type you have to counter engage. So we've talked a lot about in the past how to play through those scenarios. But to be a better jungler, what I'm learning is it's all in the mindset and using the information that you are giving yourself with wards.
Yep, and in the later game, I would say just keep you and your sexy, sweet smite self near the objective that you're going to be contesting. That's what we want.
To a degree, the other parts of this question really depend on the type of champion that you've picked. You're going to play Amumu, very different from Warwick, very different from Master Yi. These are all champions who are doing very different things, and you need to understand what your champion's strengths are. If your team comp is built around team fighting, that's what you want to try to force to happen. But if you don't have a good comp for team fighting, and instead you're better off, you have a poke comp, or you're trying to do sieges and that type of thing, you kind of need to try and get your team in position to do what it is best at. And that does require a lot of game knowledge and game sense and everything, just because you got to be able to look at your comp and say, all right, what should we be doing? And some comps are messes, frankly. And then that's what you need to be executing on to the best of your ability there.
Yeah, and as a jungler, I think Adam hit it best, making sure you're mobile and keep the wards out there and just stay near the objectives when they're about to spawn or if they're about to be contested.
Yeah, and pretty much your number one goal whenever you are going to Baron or going to Dragon is to hit your smite. Mm-hmm. Over anything
properly.
And everything else. Your job is to hit that smite. So practice.
Yeah, and that goes with everything. Like we always say, to a degree, it just takes a certain amount of time spent playing the role before you're actually going to get it. You just have to dedicate the effort. Now that said, you picked a smart role to pick up after support. It's
I'm very
more
more
macro intense, less micro and mechanical focused and everything, and that's a good way to be. It's hard to transition to any other of the other roles from support. I am speaking from firsthand experience there. Recent firsthand experience.
Don't forget about wards, though. That's the big thing. So many people in this game forget to buy wards. If your map is lit up like a Christmas tree, you're going to have so much more information to understand where to respawn to.
I do notice that. Like even when I play other roles, I'm like, yeah, I still buy just a ton of wards. They're everywhere. My lane is always safe. But if I die to a gank, it's because the gank had every intention of making me die. It's not.
You saw it, but there was nothing you could do.
I'm laughing because last night we played and someone on the enemy team, there was a Syndra who was yelling at me. Why are you mid? Why have you been mid 7 times? And my response was, because you keep dying. Well, she's like, you go to the opposite sides of my wards. Well, it's like I can tell where you're warding then if I'm able to walk through the same spot every single time. If you are that person that's bitching because you're getting ganked a ton, it's because you don't have enough vision control and you keep playing aggressively forward. You've been killed twice, but you continue to play aggressively forward. I'm going to come to your lane and kill you.
The best thing I've ever seen somebody in game say when somebody was complaining that the jungler was camping them is complaining in all chat that the jungler is camping you over and over again is going to stop the jungler from coming. Said no jungler ever.
Yeah. Oh, you're mad that I'm going to come to camp you? Well, I'm going to keep coming to this lane to make you
Oh, great. He's on tilt.
Yep.
He's on tilt. Now we know it.
That's just it. Yeah, it feels great to get that big item and everything, but your big item is going to mean fuck all if you just die because you haven't been warding. So if you have no spider sense, you don't have the ability to sense when ganks are coming your way and everything, you gotta ward. You have to put wards down.
Man, a lot of
And it is your own damn fault if you die. It's nobody else's fault.
I love how a lot of questions always come back to warding.
Yep.
Just about every question that we talk about, what do I do in this scenario? What do I do this? Well, you ward.
Did you have a ward down?
First of all, you start with a ward or you deward. And you know, if we haven't drove that into your head by now, yes, driven.
This goes all the way back to G.I. Joe. Knowledge is power, G.I. Joe. You know, wards give knowledge. Knowledge is power. No, I'm not punning. I'm actually serious here. So
okay.
Because we talked about America earlier, so G.I. Joe. America. Wards win.
Wait, what is the G.I. Joe? Is it like what is the
Real American, yeah.
what?
G.I. Joe.
No, the YouTube series that somebody took.
Oh God, what is that?
Ham sandwiches or something. I can't remember what it was.
Wait,
I can't remember.
Hey Kayla.
The T-Force podcast doesn't officially support
G.I. Joe
this YouTube series.
comedy series, the YouTube series.
Wait, we're waiting for it. No, we're waiting for it. Kayla's gonna tell Chira. Hold on.
She doesn't remember. God damn it.
Damn it! Somebody in
What a
chat has to
letdown.
know. I can't move on until I know what this is. Somebody tell me what it is. There's a G.I. Joe PSA where somebody dubbed over it and made fun of what they were saying. Pork chop sandwiches.
The G.I. Joe. The
Pork chop sandwiches.
G.I. Joe dub over, or like the G.I. Joe PSAs.
It was pork chop sandwiches. That's what it is.
I have the video up right now. Excuse me for the next 43 seconds.
Thank you, Botganorum. Thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Offset, for that question. Seagrove writes, when do you send one or more to stop a split push, and why do you fight 4v5?
Sorry, cheers. Laughing at pork chop sandwiches.
So this is kind of conditional because it depends where you are on the map and everything. You would send, I mean, if they can take all the objectives quickly and your team doesn't have the ability to siege effectively, like you can't tower dive and take them out and then start pushing objective downs further, you have to send somebody to deal with the split push. You can't sit and just pussyfoot around. You can't do that, like, because then they're just going to come out ahead due to the split push. And that also depends on whether or not whether they have teleport or not, or it's someone like Shen who can just split push and then be there anyway. But you would, if you have a team that is capable of diving effectively, that's when you try to force the 4v5 fight because you have a numbers advantage.
If you have a team that brings enough, what makes a team good at diving is a lot of utility. A lot of displacement, a lot of shields, a lot of heals. That's all utility for people. So you have a Malphite into an Orianna. You have a Rengar into an Orianna, that type of thing. You have a Malphite that can dive. You have a Leona that can start open with her ultimate. You have a Thresh who can land a hook into his box. Anything that's either displacement or utility allows you to 4v5 dive. But when do you send two to stop a top laner? Well, excuse me, a split pusher who's usually a top laner.
Fed Jax.
And Tryndamere.
Well, the reason the person should be split pushing is they can take anybody on the map one-on-one. So that's why they're split pushing.
Yeah, that's why you don't see marksman split
And get
pushing.
out when it gets hairy.
Well, yes and no.
Depends on the marksman. I mean, a mage is going to blow a marksman up pretty quickly.
Right. Well, I'm saying, like, you'll see in the, this is LCS, you'll see, like, Reckles and whatnot split push on, and double lift split push on Vayne.
Jinx, Vayne, whoever they want to do.
Yeah. And you, LCS, you see Fizz split pushing a lot.
Right. But you also...
Most players aren't LCS players.
Right.
But I want to make sure people understand that there are champions that can do it.
That's what I'm saying, marksmen shouldn't do it.
Well, I think Pone's trying to explain the types of champions you can escape, and Vayne can pretty much 1v2 most people in a game when she's that late. Fizz can escape. He does tons of damage, and then he can get out of there. So that's pretty much the formula you're looking for with a split pusher. So if you're going to send one to fight that split pusher, just make sure either you are wave clearing at the turret they're hitting, if they're already that far deep, or you can defeat them.
Yeah, if you're sending two to stop somebody split pushing, more than likely you're already losing.
Yep.
So that's
if you're sending two, I mean that's
at that point
that's a worst case scenario, and you
try to take advantage of that fed person not being with their team and try to defeat the enemy team, I would say.
I would almost never send 2 people. Like, it's hard. Like, you want to do it because you want to stop the split push, and I still fall into that trap of wanting to stop the split push, but you really shouldn't send 2 people to stop somebody. You should just try to do the 4v5.
Yep.
Unless the rest of his team is not on the same page and they're all backing, or they're all spread out too, and you can get a good dog pile on that split pusher because he's just cocky. He's like, I'm awesome. I can take any of you
He's
guys
way
on.
far ahead, and the enemy team's like by their first tier turret.
And his team can't take an objective and punish you for sending more than one person up there. Then go for it. A target of opportunity. These rules aren't black and white 100%. They're best case scenario when the enemy team is doing what they should be doing. But if they're being jackasses, go ahead and punish them for it.
So shout out to Dominate Gaming, who is hosting our podcast on his channel right now. So we are rebroadcast to Dominate Gaming TV. We haven't had him on in quite a while. We need to talk about Dominion a little bit more
nice.
here.
Thanks, Dominate Gaming.
That you know what?
Thanks, Feedsky.
Yes, Feedsky.
He's the man.
I definitely think we for those of you out there who want to know more about threes and Dominion, and whatnot, we will be touching on that in the future, I'm sure. We're just moving into the very last patch here with 4.13, so that'll be coming up here shortly. Sorry if the answer to that last question got kind of cut off, Seagrove, but
I think we pretty much hit it.
I think pretty much it. I think the Claude really went over it, but to sum it up, you need to figure out what your team can do best. If your team can drive something down 5v4 while someone's split pushing and taking an inhib at the same time they can, it might be more worth it for your team depending on what you are taking. Like, you are taking the middle inhibitor and you can make it back in time to stop it, or we can defend 4v5 because we have a tower who is our 5th person. You just have to decide. You have to make that conscious decision of this is what we're going to do, and then stick to it and figure out if it worked, and if it didn't work, try something else next time. I can't give you a definitive answer of how to play it because there's so many variables on how to play those.
I mean, the reality is part of the problem is if they're split pushing, it's because they have enough of a lead where doing so is going to keep winning the game for them. That's what they need, and you are probably behind if they're getting away with split pushing. If you're ahead and someone starts to split push, you should be able to just barrel down the next objective and everything. So by nature, this question already implies that your team is behind, and that's a difficult spot to be in.
Yep. What was it? Alliance that cut out Fnatic? I still forget the teams, but Reckless was split pushing, and because they were so far ahead, it was only the 20-minute mark, but they were destroying their opponent. Then Reckless decided, I'm going to split push, and then everyone on the opposing team just drove down the middle and base raised one.
Right.
So the split push doesn't mean you're going to lose if you can punish them appropriately.
Yeah,
like I said, if they're being jackasses, punish them.
Does that person doesn't have teleport or isn't high mobility? It's probably just better to throw yourself into him 4v5.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and move on to... I'm going to move down to 2 because Gorath and Seeger have already had a question on here, and I want to get to people who have not had questions yet. So, Tralala writes in, what role should be finishing their 6th item over keeping a slot open for wards? Supports normally have a sight stone, but is it worth keeping a slot open for pink wards? For the rest of the roles, is it worth picking up an extra item and not having the ability to get vision?
That's late game.
Yeah,
super late game.
You know, I am under the impression that junglers should start picking up a sight stone now.
There are certain junglers that it's incredibly good on too. Again, Lee Sin comes up for this. I love
Jax.
getting a sight stone. Yeah, and Jax. I love getting a sight stone on Lee Sin just because it increases your ability to move through objects so much easier, and you can just be this giant pain in the ass.
So what are we assuming a team composition has as far as trinkets go?
Well, see,
because I think that's important for this conversation. The support is going to have a
step back
sweeper.
From this, Dom, is where are we at? Are you on the offensive or defensive? Because if you are on the offensive, you're probably going to have 4. Well, this is to go with your trinket. You're probably going to have 4 sweepers. If you're on the defensive, you're probably going to have 3 sweepers and 2 wards, plus someone dewarding. But when you're on the defensive, everything that you're doing is being dewarded, and you can't deward the wards they're putting out because you have to play defensively and you can't walk out to deward.
I mean, you figure, like, assuming you have 3 sweepers and 2 ward trinkets, or 2 sweepers, 2 ward trinkets, and an orb. You know, that's 5 wards you're going to have on the map, plus whatever pinks are left over from all the early game goings on. There might be none, there might be a bunch. 5 wards should give you sufficient vision for the specific area, like for the area around the objective that you're focusing on next, whether that's Baron, whether that's one of the side lane turrets, whether you're just trying to ward up the jungle to catch somebody. I mean, 5 wards is a lot of vision for a consolidated area, and realistically at that stage of the game, you're not trying to cast a wide vision net, you're just trying to keep yourself informed for the objective that you're looking at. Can we all agree with that?
Yeah.
So in that respect, I don't know that anybody really needs to keep a slot open specifically for wards if the item that they would be getting is going to help, like, because there's, like, information is great, but at that stage of the game, the item is going to be more beneficial for the next fight that you have, and the next fight very well might dictate the course of the game. The counter argument could be the ward that you didn't place because you didn't have a spot open is also going to be the thing that causes the loss.
Let the enemy team ace you.
Well, Dom, speaking of the 5 wards here, we're actually looking at 8 wards total because realistically, jungle and support are going to have the most open slots out of any of the other people on the team. And each player can have 3 wards plus a pink. So each, you have, that's 8 wards total that could be on the map at any one time. And realistically, 8 wards is just a massive amount of information across this entire map.
It's probably 9 wards because most junglers are getting... Is it safe to assume most junglers are getting either Feral Flare or Spirit of the Ancient Golem?
Yeah,
it's really only a
ward with each
ward cap.
Yeah, I mean, so it's really only a small subset of junglers who are not getting one of those 2 items, right? At this point.
Sure. Well, yeah, sure.
So it's fair to assume, yeah. So that's actually 6 wards instead of 5, because the jungler definitely has a scrying orb no matter what. Like most jungler, a sweeper.
Well, you can still have 3 wards. You have 4 wards because you can have a pink plus 3 greens on every person. So that's
what I'm saying is, assuming no inventory slots, assuming no free inventory slots, you have the supports 3 plus the junglers 1 plus the 2 yellow trinkets. So that gets your team wards up to 6, assuming no available item slots otherwise.
Right.
But yeah, junglers and supports should be buying picks.
Well, and like I said, realistically, junglers aren't going to fill those final slots, and the ward is going to be more beneficial for a jungler than that dagger or longsword or whatever it may be, because it allows you to secure objectives or siege objectives.
But if you're a marksman and you're choosing between a slot for a pink ward and a guardian angel, you got to go with the one that's going to bring you back to life.
Even a longsword.
Yeah.
See, the difference is on an AD carry, you get that extra 3 or 4 auto attacks off that the jungler isn't going to get. So that longsword could be life or death.
Yeah. I mean,
you really shouldn't be in a position that you are warding as an AD carry, because AD carries are more reactive than any of the other roles because they're reacting to what your team does.
You are all in on Scrying Orb on AD carry at this point, aren't you?
Well, no, I think you could still stick with...
I agree.
I like Scrying Orb a lot, and I think it's great. You have to really know how to use it to make it worthwhile, because the cooldown is really long and it only gives you a quick burst of information.
Actually gets a really short cooldown compared to everything else.
Well, no, I get that, but it's still a long cooldown for the quick burst of information you get. Because they don't. What does it only last? Like 3 seconds, maybe, when you drop it.
Yeah, 2 or 3 seconds, I think.
Vision,
but it's plenty of vision when you need it.
Sure, but there's plenty of times in the mid game where there's no wards on the map, or there's very few wards, and you don't know where anybody is at. So you drop your Scrying Orb trying to find somebody, and you don't catch anybody. And now that could have been better use for a ward.
Yeah, but there are plenty of times you use a sweeper and you don't catch a ward with it.
My whole point of my discussion here is that I really like Scrying Orb on AD carries. Do I think it's worth picking up over a totem, your normal totem? Yes, but always start with the totem and don't feel bad if you have the totem at the end of the game.
I like that item in part because I'm a really big fan of Clairvoyance. That summoner alone really helped develop my game sense. And at the time, I running that summoner. Like, I really understood every single jungle route because I was running that, and I just knew where to find every jungler to inform the rest of my team, because people are just not paying attention to that shit. Like, they don't know as well, but like that item. So I'm a really big fan because that item has the is in the spirit of the Clairvoyant Summoner, and I think it's It's really good for helping your game sense and where people are going to be. And if you can expose that information for your team, that's a big deal.
And late game, one fight can pretty much mean the end of the game. So you get that point where you know everything's clear, you swept, you got your pink. You're like, hey, let's set up this bush gank. And then nothing's worse than, whoa, you just get the scrying orb over top. You're like, oh, crap. So much for that idea. So, but if you don't have it, you can't do that. And you might blunder in, or if you're in range to throw a ward into that bush, you're probably going to get destroyed. And then it's a 4v5.
Barons.
Yep.
Exactly.
It's a good item.
Baron fights and everything. So,
well, let's go ahead and move. Let's go ahead and move on to one last question here. I think this is a good question to end the podcast with. From Alberto. Don't you think Riot should commission a group or company to come out with the lore, comics, or series based on League of Legends?
You mean like somebody else to do the lore?
So no. Like taking the lore and think about extended universe.
Taking it to
expanding everything.
Star Wars extended universe, World of Warcraft extended universe, yada yada. Like
what's extended universe?
World of Warcraft, for example, or Star Wars. They took the basic lore that they came up with, and then they wrote books based on that lore.
They wrote the books. They had the comic series for WoW. WoW has a bunch of extra stuff, though. At the end of the day, I still say if Blizzard just put out like cinematic quality little shorts all the time, I'd just throw money at them.
Oh, if it looked like the openings for like World of Warcraft,
I would
and
throw
Pandora
untold amounts of money to them.
Oh yeah,
left and right.
I would love to see more done with the lore for League of Legends. The problem is that it's a total mess, and Riot is very carefully trying to figure out how to retcon their own existing lore, because when they started out, they really didn't have, like, they had no idea what they were doing. And you can go read Alistar's lore. It's it's awful. With all due respect to the writers and everything that were working on it at the time, it was a very, very, very different game, and it like his lore as it is now just doesn't fit in here anymore. And that is really why I think Riot's so hesitant to do this, because they are trying to get their lore to a spot where they can do really cool and expansive things, like we saw with the Freljord event last year. They've done some cool stuff with Twisted Treeline. I presume that they're going to do something with the Summoner's Rift update.
Well, here I think the big problem with this is that this game isn't like World of Warcraft, for example. Not World of Warcraft, excuse me. Warcraft 1, 2, and 3, where there's a campaign.
Yeah, Warcraft.
Right.
And they had to make lore around the campaigns, and they had to make a story around it, and it had to be
a plot.
Solid.
And the maps drove the
game
story.
Was a story.
Yeah.
What I would love is if they did some player influenced events that actually affected the lore,
like the Ionian Noxus.
Yeah, or just like even like they decide two factions are going head to head for reasons. Yep. You can queue up into a special queue. This this event runs for say 2 weeks or something, and you decide which team you want to be on, and whatever side, based on the entire player base, whatever side ends up winning more is the victor in that specific event, and then they take the lore from there.
I
think that type of stuff would be cool.
They did it once. Freljord stuff, but it never went anywhere.
No, that got you an icon, and yeah, there were they released the results, but there wasn't anything actually meaningful.
Right.
And I think it would be really cool if there were meaningful results due to events like that. But you can't run it for a long time, because they've shown with the short-term game modes that there's tons of interest right out the bat, and then it slows down pretty quickly.
Oh, I'm sure. Because Doombots was probably just insane for the first week, and then just died.
Heck, even just running it for 1 week, considering how many regions have this game, like how many people are playing this game, you could get some very meaningful results and just see how things shake out.
Yeah, I don't think Riot should commission a group or company to do it, because there's a lot lost in translation. I think Riot should stick with it. They're repairing their lore, like you were saying earlier. It is a mess right now. I know Pantheon's old lore. It was more like a placeholder lore, because his people were the Stanpar, which is an anagram for Spartan. So, little things like that. So they changed that, and everything. So it's once they get everything in a row, I would love to see more. Like the cinematic that we just had, the most recent one. was amazing. I'm flying high off of that. I watch it, I love it, and I want to see. Now I want to see a movie or a series. You know,
and that's just it. Like that's a
You
cool
hunger for more.
promotional cinematic, but I would love if they actually did some cinematics that influenced the lore. I mean, that was really just, I mean, like it kind of had a Noxus theme to it going on at first, but
It was
then
an example of the game. That was lore.
Yeah,
that was
yeah, I
less
get it.
lore and more just gameplay. Yeah.
I get why they did it. I just wish there were more like developments in the lore aside from just champion releases. I mean, Freljord was the last one, unless I have forgotten something here.
Well, maybe they're getting at it with the whole, Victor and his army of Battlecast guys. They're not done making those yet.
No, they've really been focusing on Freljord quite a bit because Braum was Freljord. This new character looks like he's
out of Freljord
as well.
I don't know if he's from Freljord though.
I would.
There's
just
already
Yordle.
theories. There's already theories
Are
up.
there Yordles in Freljord?
There's already a bunch of theories up.
I know
There's a difference.
there's
There's
an ice
a
one.
difference between being a Freljord champion and being imprisoned in Freljord for reasons.
Sure.
You still have the thematic tie, yeah, but that doesn't make him a Freljord
But
champion.
it allows them to
It's
use
Xenopan.
the
Yordle
lore
edition.
they've put together about Freljord to their in their advantage or favor to bring more champions out that way. Like right now, they couldn't talk about anyone with Alistar and why. I don't even know what Alistar's lore is. I remember it being a total shit show, like you said.
Forced
But
to fight in an arena. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
they've
Alistar
done a
just-
pretty good job though with Bandle City and whatever they have the
over.
building blocks in place. They just
Oh
have
yeah,
to fix
they have
it.
all kinds of really cool stuff going on with the lore like now, and they do need to go back and clean up. I mean, Tarek's lore also doesn't really fit in this game right now. I
the whole
Nasus and
summoner thing doesn't
Renekton.
really fit in this game.
Nasus and
anymore either.
Renekton barely make any sense. I mean, when when the bubble pops. But
Well, you know what? They haven't really focused on the summoner aspect of it either. And they don't really focus on why people are coming to Summoner's Rift to fight anymore. Like all the
Right.
new lore, it hasn't said, well, this person is coming to Summoner's Rift to fight for the honor and that and that. And you don't hear anything about summoners controlling the champions and, this and that. So there's a lot to be left to work on. with it.
honestly, like I envy the team working in the lore department at Riot, whatever personnel are involved, because like there's really fertile ground to work with here. It's difficult because some stuff's already established and they have to go through and carefully adjust things to make it fit with their vision going forward without, terribly displeasing the fans. But there's a lot of just really, really fertile ground to work with here. And from a storytelling standpoint, that's a great spot to be.
And they can even use like skin releases to insert a little bit of lore because they show with a skin release, they give a little bit of lore with it. For example, the Hazmat Heimerdinger, Moobeat pointed this out on Twitter today. He actually predicted Gnar a little bit. He was talking about how the primitive Yordles would fight with boomerangs and blowguns. And in the little cave art on that preview for Gnar, you see a little Gnar guy
behold.
with a boomerang.
Teemo
So
fights with a blowgun.
they connect things a little bit. Yeah, exactly. So
All right. Well, I think all this lore discussion
clever
has
with it.
been great. It's something that we don't get to talk quite a bit about. So it's those kind of questions are always
that.
fun. If you guys enjoyed the listener episode, which I'm going to wrap up now, you can always email us, feedback@trinityforcepodcast.com. Write your own question in. We try to get to a listener episode. I would say every third episode at this point has been a mailbag episode. Right, guys? That's about it.
Pretty regular. I mean, just
yep.
depends on what's going on in the league or in the game.
sneak a few as a filler.
And yeah, as we move, once the LCS is over and patch 4.13 hits, we'll probably have a week to talk about all that. But there's going to be 2 to 3 weeks following that we aren't going to have a lot to talk about because there's not going to be any huge sweeping patch
think.
notes changes. Well,
So
right.
send us questions.
So send us questions. We are here to answer everything as we move into the end of Season 4. That means, guys, now, if you want to get to that next rank, start doing it now. Get into ranks and start playing it now.
You're running out of time.
You got four months or so left. I know
And
it
just
seems
backing
like
up to the questions, if for some reason we are unable to answer it on air, Days Untold right now is doing a lot of email responses. In the past, everybody has contributed to that, so we do our very best to get to your question in one way or another. So we can never get enough of those.
That's right. Keep sending them.
Inundate us, send them in.
So thanks, guys. Thanks, Pantheon, for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast.
You're very welcome.
I kept looking in your direction. I'm like, gee, what the fuck? Oh yeah, he's not here.
He's a
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got a lot of sun and I like to spar. I like to spar tan, so I'm sorry.
All right, guys. That is episode number 181 of the Trinity Force podcast. Go check us out, trinityforcepodcast.com. We will see you all on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on stream.trinityforcepodcast.com.
Later, guys.
Peace.